Some of the stuff that you see throughout the community. This is all stuff we need to talk about. There's manuals, there's guides, there's all kinds of stuff for us to read that others have put together for us. But how many times do we actually get together and talk? How can we internationally, not just municipally, not provincially, not nationally, internationally, how can we unite? You activists, you want to act up, let's act. You want to lead, I'll follow. Let's stand shoulder to shoulder. We got a common bond, it's called HIV. Let's stand up, let's fight, let's put some services in place. And for those who choose to stand against us, so let them stand. We get a hold of our MLAs, we take our political actions as necessary, and we organize. Now people seem to think it takes a lot of money to make this kind of organization happen. I would argue that it doesn't. That it takes the willingness, the time, such as I put forward myself in just doing the videos. This is minimal, but it's time. If 10,000 people collectively put this much time in to a movement, I think we can move something. I think we can make some change. But we need to do this together, in a collective manner, and in a manner that empowers each person, regardless of skill set. If all you can do is write a letter, if all you can do is read, if all you can do is tell your story and write it down in handwriting, whatever, and fax it off somewhere, if that's all that your skill set requires or all that your skill set offers, so be it. The fact is you're fighting in a movement that's way bigger than any one person because it affects generations. It's an evolutionary illness. And unfortunately, our great leaders seem to downplay it. It hasn't been mentioned in the US elections, it hasn't been mentioned in Canada in some time, there hasn't been an HIV commercial on for some time. Okay, CNN recently had a lady on there that had me almost in tears. Because you know what, she got up, got rough, rugged, and raw. Got up in your face and told you that fucking AIDS is real and it's still here and it's killing our kids. And nobody's doing nothing. And it's not a gay disease. I'm a hetero male, always have been. Okay, it is a disease. Everybody is applicable to this, unless there's a secret cure that we don't know about. And believe me, there's a conspiracy theories, and we might do a show on conspiracy theories because I'd love to do one. If any of you out there would like to do one with me, please get in touch with me. But there's some serious aspects to what we are facing as HIV positive individuals. 15 years I've been, I just had to get checked for osteoporosis because I take Truvada. Okay, so they inject me with radiation particles, I get checked out. Now you guys might think in other countries that this is all okay, not a big deal. Well, for regardless of the country that you're born in, that's called your birthright. Okay, if I was born in England and I was a prince, well, hell, then I would be a millionaire. Okay, and I'd be pretty well off. It's your birthright where you're born. I was born in Canada, so my birthright is to act within Canadian law and within our healthcare system. Now, I may have a lot of stuff available to me, but at the same time, at 15 years, there was zero support here from my family. There was zero support for my daughter, zero support for me, and zero support for my wife in the area of what we were going through. I mean, counseling services surely aren't that hard to provide. There's many people that have the skill sets applicable to make this happen and to make it workable. So it's very confusing to me as to why some of these things aren't happening. Okay, and continuing to move forward. Okay, we're going to try and close this section out because I'm freaking getting tired and trying to raise the different issues that are key facing us here in Canada. In the most recent epidemic update for 2008, the number of deaths from AIDS in 2007 totaled 2 million. According to the report, down from 2.2 million in 2005. So, we had quite a few less people die. But again, with all that's going on in the world, when we look at the international stage, we need to look at what's going on with war, famine, and the like before we come to a conclusion, such as some of these deaths, because surely they're not reflective of what's really going on. And it's got to be one of the most hardest things. I'm just going to close this up. It's probably got to be one of the hardest things trying to be an activist. Trying to be an activist and trying to be an advocate, a father, somebody that's pretty proactive in what they do, and also trying to help others and finding a balance in helping yourself. Sometimes they run hand in hand, they coincide. By helping others, I get help in return. That's what collective peer action is. When somebody sends back an email and says thank you for the extra work you put out, it always helps. Because it comes from an unconditional place. A small thank you means a lot, and I like to try to leave things on a positive note when it comes to dealing with HIV/AIDS, because it isn't about us dying. We're all living, and what the future holds, we don't know. We could live a lot of years. I think the questions that we need to ask ourselves is, how do we collectively move forward from here? How do we collectively disseminate all this information? Here on the island is an example of where, or here in BC in general, the doctors haven't been as forthcoming with the availability of anabolics to rebuild your body if you're wasting. For myself, I was 155 pounds. I rebuilt my body back up to 220 of muscle, and that was done using Nandrolone and testosterone. Nandrolone's no longer available; it was taken off the market. But the fact that people were unaware that this was possible isn't a good example of where treatment information is lacking. And again, this comes down to services and education. And when these things are lacking, it's directly related also to parenting, because people might say, oh, he's complaining because he can't get steroids or can't get testosterone. I wouldn't say that's the case. I'd say I'm more wanting to use every tool that's in my toolbox, including anabolics, to keep my body weight on and to sustain the look that does not reflect AIDS, okay, for as long as possible, so as to protect my daughter more than myself. Facing off with stigma and discrimination, I wouldn't be going on YouTube and using my real name if I wasn't afraid of it, okay? Being afraid is a natural thing. Being able to face off with your fear, that shows real strength and real leadership. That's what I try to do now, and that's what I try to move forward with. After serving for 10 years with BCPWA, British Columbia Persons with AIDS Society, writing a few articles, serving 5 years as a peer counselor, and now spending 4 years working with cannabis and cannabis-related issues, I've really lost touch with some of the fundamental things that I was doing in the early days with Youth Co AIDS Society and various other key groups here in BC. And Youth Co is just getting off the ground. But speaking to the kids, and when I say kids, I'm talking about high school, grade 11, grade 12 students that are active, and trying to help, and also looking at this from a parenting perspective. How do we get out and start to share what these parents are going through? Because I've met maybe 10 sets of parents in BC, but yet there's all these babies being born. I'd like to know where all those babies are. However, trying to find the statistics on how many babies were seized by the Ministry of Children and Family is almost impossible. I've tried. The problem with that is because they won't cite HIV/AIDS, because that would be discriminatory. They will cite words like neglect, which is a very broad word, and that word is not necessarily discriminatory. Rather, it's simply neglect, and whatever the word may, or whatever the worker may decide constitutes neglect. And I learned a lot through fighting them 10 separate times prior to them testifying on my, well, not even testifying, but showing up on my behalf at court and hearing that I cultivate cannabis and that I use cannabis.